Welcome to the Witness Podcast. I'm your host, Ava Trader, and this is episode 5. You know, there are certain Bible verses that seem to be repeated over and over so much that they almost start to lose their flavor. You see them hanging on walls with breathtaking artwork. They become memes or magnets on refrigerators. I hate to admit this, but it's almost like you hear them so much you stop hearing them. You, dare I say it, take them for granted. For example, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. Or, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Proverbs 3:5. Or, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. 1 Thessalonians 5:18. It's possible you kind of zoned out while I was reading those verses. But I can assure you, God never intended for those words to become overused. I believe he intended them to be lifelines. Something for us to grab a hold of in our darkest hour. Something that you could lean on and know that no matter what, this verse has to be true. And honestly, I believe it's an amazing blessing when you have an opportunity for his word to have the full impact he intended it to have. Our next witness is someone who has had just that opportunity. Her only hope, and my only hope, was that those verses would prove to be true. I say my only hope because our next witness happens to be my youngest daughter. Due to a family heart condition, which we will discuss in this and probably future episodes, our next guest has encountered battle after battle and endured numerous hospital stays. To say her life has been a roller coaster would be an understatement. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I call to the stand Ava Trader. Ava.
Hey.
Welcome to the Witness Podcast. Thank you for being willing to come out here and talk to me.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. So, as you probably heard from the introduction, this is my daughter Ava, and I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about her. I'm gonna let her tell you most of it, but I'm just gonna give you a brief little, why she's sitting here with me today. She has been through a fair amount of difficulty with her heart. And she's been in and out of the hospital quite a few times over the past few years. And she most recently was in the hospital this past May.
Yeah, end of May.
Yeah, so most recently she was in the hospital this past May for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, I think like 3 days. It was from Wednesday to Friday.
Right, so she had to have another surgery, and because of that, she has to go back to Johns Hopkins periodically for post-surgery checkups. And at the last post-surgery checkup, we were in the waiting room, and the cardiologist came in and was talking to Ava about some of the things that she's been dealing with. And as I listened to the cardiologist talk to her, I realized that Ava has, she could really have a story to tell because she's been on quite a journey for a 17-year-old. So 17, right?
In November.
Well, I was almost there, guys.
It's okay. Close
Anyway,
enough.
So as I sat there and listened to the conversation between her and her cardiologist, I felt like God was leading me pressing me to ask Ava to be on the podcast because I believe that perhaps there's people out there who may be able to relate to her and who she may be able to relate to. And so, anyway, I wanted to have her on, and I thank you, Ava, for coming on.
Of course. No problem.
So before we get into all that, let's go ahead and just start with where are you from? And, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm from Annapolis, Maryland, born and raised. I'm 16. I'll be 17 in November. I don't know. I'm technically a junior in high school this year, but I'm able to graduate, so I'm like a junior/senior, I guess.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I started my homeschool journey this year. So that's exciting. Since I'm homeschooling this year, that was the reason I was able to graduate. So.
And why are you homeschooling this year?
Well, it just made sense with everything that happened the last school year. I was already having a lot of heart issues, I guess, is what you could call them, like leading up to my surgery. And so I had, like before everything had happened, I had started only going half day. There's like a program that public schools do called home and hospital teaching. And you can either like go fully online or you can go half days, and then the rest of your courses you do online, if that makes sense. So I was already doing that, and then I had to have a surgery again. So it just made sense with all of my health problems that I should take it easy this year and just do homeschooling, online school.
So you didn't have any issues with going to high school? Like, you liked high school, you had a lot of friends, right?
Yeah.
But it was just more of a matter of just made sense because you missed a lot of school. You weren't able to be in class often.
Yeah.
Because you were, due to doctor's appointments and hospital visits, and so.
Yeah, basically.
And you were on that program, like you said, home hospital program?
Yeah, I think I don't remember how long I was on it before I was just fully pulled out of school. I think it was like a couple weeks before everything happened, like beginning of May. I think beginning of May, we had finally gotten everything figured out with home and hospital, so I was only going in the mornings at like first and second period, and then I would leave during my lunch block and then do school, like do my last 2 periods at home. And then, like the weekend before Memorial Day, or like the week before Memorial Day, I had the heart surgery again.
Yeah, we'll get into those details.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit of background, and I'll probably talk about this in the introduction, or I already talked about it. But a little bit of background, like my side of the family, we've got major heart issues that go throughout me, my father, my aunt, my uncles, and it's carried down to my brother and sisters, and then it's carried down to my nieces and nephews, and of course my kids. And so Ava is a recipient of this unfortunate genetic situation, and it's pretty involved, and I don't want to get bogged down in the details, but some of this is important. And I guess I kind of wish my wife was here because she knows the details much better than I do. But basically, there's a few issues with the hearts, and Ava, before she was even born, she had holes in her heart that they were intending to close after she was born, but her heart had a lot of issues while she was in the womb that they were extremely concerned about. And if I remember this correctly, they had considered doing surgery before she was born, but decided not to. But maybe they were going to have to do surgery like as soon as she was born. Anyway, there were a lot of scary things with her before she was even born. And then truly miraculously, a lot of these things took care of themselves, so that once she was born, we were able to wait a few years before she had to have the actual open heart surgery to close the holes. Does that sound accurate to you, Ava? How old were you when you had your first open heart surgery?
I was 5.
So yeah, we were able to wait until she was 5. Now, another one of the things that's associated with this heart disease that my family has is there's a particular, I want to call it a glitch in the DNA. And again, I don't want to try to give you too many details because I don't really know exactly what they are, but there is a glitch in the DNA that causes sudden death. So I talked to you in episode 1, my story. I talked about my father's death, and he died in 2000, and then in 2007, my brother passed away suddenly, and then in 2010, my sister passed away suddenly, and all of these sudden deaths are associated with this gene. So my entire family had to get genetic testing to see who had the gene and who didn't. And whoever had the gene had to have an ICD put in when you reach your 12th birthday. If you have the gene, you have to have an ICD put in. So I have an ICD. My sister, I have 2 surviving sisters. One of them has the gene, and she has an ICD. And then she has... How many of her kids have ICDs or will have?
Who?
Elizabeth's.
2.
Right. So
Zoe.
she has 3 kids, and 2 of her kids have the gene, and they'll have ICDs. My sister that passed away had 3 kids who all have the gene and all have ICDs. And then I have 5 kids. 4 of my kids have the gene and have ICDs. So this is something that's prevalent throughout my family. My uncle also has an ICD, and he had 4 other siblings, and he's the last survivor from his family. So it's been a pretty crazy situation in our family.
No, Uncle Ken had... Oh, wait, never mind.
They had 5 kids. He had 4 siblings.
I know.
Yeah. So, it's
messed up.
pretty crazy situation in our family. And so anyway, I'm telling you all that to say that when Ava had the open heart surgery when she was 5, and then when she turned 12, she had to have...
When I turned 13.
When she turned 13, she had to have the ICD put in. So, and I don't want to do any... I'm doing most of the talking here. So let's go back to Ava. Before we get into all this stuff that I just talked about, can you just talk a little bit about what your life was like, growing up, and anything that you want to talk about as far as growing up in church, your relationship with God? Did you have one? How did you feel about him?
Like, what do you like besides the heart problem?
Yeah, just tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I was a pretty normal kid for the most part. I like as a as a kid it didn't like it was kind of just a fun fact about myself. I felt like it wasn't like super prevalent in my day to day. It was kind of just like every 6 months we'd go to the cardiologist, but it just felt like I don't know. I thought it was like a normal thing. Or like I don't know. I feel like I had a pretty normal childhood. Besides that, we would like I don't I don't know, like what do you mean? Like what do you want me to explain?
What are some of your likes, some of your dislikes?
Okay. Um I enjoy reading. My favorite color is red.
Played softball, right?
I did play softball. Yeah, that was a big thing. We were a really big like softball and baseball family. I remember we would always go to my older brother's baseball games, and that was always really fun. I really enjoyed that, but it was mainly because his fields would always have playgrounds next to them. So we'd get to play on the playground. Yeah, I'd also go to my older sister's softball games, and she was kind of the reason why I wanted to start playing softball. But I do remember that was kind of like the first time where I felt like I knew that I was kind of different from everyone else, not only because I had to wear a skirt or not had to. I chose to wear a skirt over my uniform. And that was kind of like, I mean, I didn't really care. Nobody ever really said anything about it. But I had to wear a skirt, and then I also had to wear like a chest plate underneath my jersey just in case a ball were to like fly at my chest. And that was irritating, but mainly because the chest plate was really uncomfortable. So, but then I also just ended up quitting because I just wasn't a good softball player. I remember I stopped after like my third season because I didn't hit any balls and I didn't know how to slide. So
But she could really run, man. She
could
was
run.
the fastest runner on her team.
I could run. So I got away with not sliding. And I don't know, like it doesn't matter. It was like, it was whatever. But yeah, when I was younger I really loved playing sports. I remember I also really loved playing soccer. I was never on like a recreational team, but I played a lot at recess with my friends and I was pretty good. But it was mainly because I was really fast. And I really liked basketball in my middle school years, but I was, again, never on a recreational team. I wasn't that invested in any other sports. It was whatever.
What are some of your favorite books?
Well, my favorite book series, or one of my favorite book series, is Anne of Green Gables. I really enjoy that series. It's highly recommend. If you ever find yourself wanting to read, that's a great series to start on. I also really like The Book Thief. That was a really cool book that I read. I don't know if I have any other favorites. I can't think of them right now.
What are you reading now?
I don't know. I'm reading anything right now.
No, I mean, I know that you're actually in the middle of a book right now.
No, I just finished that book today.
What was it?
It's called Powerless. I don't recommend it. It was really bad. It was really unfortunate. I just read it because I wanted to finish it. Yeah, right. I'm also reading the Bible right now.
Oh, good.
Yep. Yeah.
Can you describe what you're, if you're comfortable, What's your relationship with God been like over the years of your life? Like, from when you were younger to now. What do you feel like your relationship with God has been like?
When I was younger, like single digits sort of age, I feel like I didn't really have much of a relationship with God. Cause I didn't really understand. Like I went to church every Sunday and I went to Sunday school. I learned about all of that, like the basic stuff. I think I really started getting serious with my relationship with God in like as soon as I hit youth, I got more serious with it. I feel like I don't know, when everything started happening, I don't think my relationship with God was necessarily like I don't think that affected anything. I I don't really know. I don't think it really like affected anything negatively, but there were certain points where I was like, well, like why me? Like that age-old question, when horrible things are happening around you or like happening to you, you know.
Did you ever feel physically like this heart situation was affecting you that you noticed?
What do you mean? Like what do you mean?
Like before, okay, so you had this open heart surgery when you were 5. I don't think you probably remember a whole lot about that.
Not really, no.
Okay, so but you're leading up to the age of 13 before you got the ICD put in. Do you remember ever feeling like you were physically affected by the heart situation?
Yeah, I think so. I could definitely tell that I was like was getting a lot more tired way more quickly, which was never really a problem for me. I was like just getting really drained, I guess. But besides from the heart problem, I have other things. Like I have other chronic illnesses. I have something called POTS, and that seriously affects your like exhaustion levels your exhaustion levels as well. So for me those things like were playing off each other. So I was just like at 12 years old, a school day would like completely drain me and I was like down for the count. So, yeah. Definitely.
And do you think that affected you spiritually and mentally? How old were you when you got baptized in Jesus' name?
I was 11.
And what made you decide that you wanted to do that?
I just knew that it was something that you had to do. So I did it. I don't really think there was anything that like necessarily caused me to. It was kind of just something that I knew I needed to get it done. So I did.
Was there a particular church service that moved on you, or did you feel God tugging on you, or it was just something you were ready to take care of?
I was just ready to take care of it. I remember I remember you and Mom were like really pushing me to.
Oh, come on.
Not in like a bad way, but I do remember there was one time like when I finally decided
Edits. We might be doing some editing.
no. Karis and Mila, my 2 older sisters, they were both gone. They both went somewhere and I don't remember. I think Karis went out of town. I don't know where Mila went, but my mom was like, "Oh, Ava, let's go get breakfast," or like, let's go to brunch." And I was like, "Okay, this is kind of strange." But it was like all in my head, and I like in my mind I knew I was like, okay, yeah, she's gonna tell me that I need to get baptized, so I better make a plan now. So I did. I remember making a plan.
Did she? Is that what she was doing?
No, not at all. I remember making a plan in my mind, and I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna get baptized. I don't want it to be on a Sunday because I don't want there to be a lot of people around, but I want Brother Mike McGurk Jr. to baptize me. And so at brunch, as soon as we were at Gary's Grill, and as soon as we sat down, I was like, okay, Mom, fine, I'll get baptized. And she was like completely taken by surprise. And I was like, but I'm not getting baptized on a Sunday. I don't want anyone to be around me when this happens. So I think it was that Saturday, we went to the church and I got baptized. And it was just Brother Mike, Sister Melissa, and my family around me. Nobody else. And it was great.
Do you remember feeling any certain way when you came out of the water?
Yeah, I felt clean. And I'm being genuine. It felt like there's is definitely a specific feeling that you get when you're baptized. And I truly believe that, because I feel like it was really great. Like I'm kind of messing up my words, but I do like the fact that I got the Holy Ghost and I got baptized later on than is typical for a kid that grows up in church, because I fully remember everything that happened the night that I got the Holy Ghost and the night that I got baptized. Not that your soul is like dirty and like you've had like issues or like you've sinned really bad when you're 11 years old, but like you've done stuff and like you still sinned. So I definitely do remember like coming out of the water and feeling changed, truly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got baptized when you were 11.
Yep.
And as you're turning 12, you're dealing with fatigue and school.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware that the fatigue is a part of your condition at that point?
Not really, because that was also when I was doing, from 11 to 12, I was in 6th grade, and that was when online school was taking place. So I remember talking to Mom about it, and I think she said something like, oh, that might be your heart problem. Like, it is about time to get your device. But it was also heavily caused by being online all day, every day because of school.
All right. Is this during COVID?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wasn't really aware by then.
Okay, so now you're old enough to remember that you've got this ICD surgery coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that aren't familiar with that, the ICD surgery is really supposed to be just well,
it's referred to as a procedure. So it's like
right.
You only stay in, or you only have to stay overnight.
Typically. You actually could leave the day of.
Yeah.
But they want you to stay overnight so that they can monitor you and make sure that everything is working.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for that, you could leave the day of. It's not considered a serious thing. But for a 12-year-old, how are you feeling, knowing that is looming?
I was definitely nervous. But I don't know. I had seen Declan and Karis recover from it, and they were like pretty much fine. I think Declan was in a little more pain because they had to like go under his muscle because he was a pretty scrawny kid. So I was like kind of nervous for that, but like not really, because it was just routine and we were only staying overnight. Like, we only had to stay for one night. And before that, the only other experience I had with staying overnight at a hospital was my heart surgery. So I guess, like, I just wasn't feeling anything negative about it that I remember. I'm sure the night before I was anxious, but, like, before then I think I was more just excited because I could also, like, milk it.
And this was in 2020
No. Well,
or
so
2021?
I actually had to get the ICD right when I was 13 because I guess there were scheduling problems. Either that or, like, I was too skinny and they wanted me to put on more weight before they put it in. So this was, like, I guess this was 2021 that I got. Wait, I think I might have it written down. Yeah, it was end of November in 2021. I got my first pacemaker, first ICD.
Okay. So you get that put in and everything went well? Everything worked?
Yep, until
Well, okay, so yeah, sorry.
until about a month later, I got, like, super sick, like, horribly ill, and we didn't really know what was going on. I remember coming home and I felt, like, really sick, like I was freezing cold.
Right after the surgery?
Oh, no.
Or right after the procedure?
About a month after the procedure, I remember coming home from school and I was like, I felt like I was coming down with something, but I mean, obviously I never could have guessed the direction that it was heading towards. I thought there was already someone absent from, like, there had been a few people already absent from school because they were sick. So I thought it was just that. And I remember coming home and I was just, like, telling my mom that I felt really bad and, like, I thought I was getting something, like a cold. And then that night, like, in the middle of the night, I, like, started, like, puking, like, puking my guts out, really bad. And so obviously I didn't go home, or I didn't go to school the next day. And I don't remember how many days had passed before my mom started getting in touch with my cardiologist. I think it was like 2 or 3 days had passed. And then I think we went right to the Johns Hopkins ER instead of Anne Arundel. And yeah.
So what happened? What was going on?
It was like they had found MRSA so I went into sepsis from MRSA. They found MRSA in my bloodstream. We don't know how it got there, but something, like, I guess it had just been dormant in my bloodstream. And so with a typical ICD procedure, they put the ICD, like, right, or not right next to, but, like, from your shoulder, like 6 inches away from your shoulder. So, like, at the top of your chest, basically. And they'll put the leads that connect to your heart through your arteries. So the MRSA had connected to my leads, and I, like, got really sick from it. Obviously, I went into sepsis. And
Can you explain what sepsis is?
not really. It's like, I guess it's just, like, something that can develop from a bacterial infection. I don't know, you might want to Google search it. But so I ended up going into septic shock, which is very rare and very fatal. So what's sepsis? You have the
Sepsis
definition?
is a life-threatening condition that occurs when the body's immune system overreacts to an infection. So she had the MRSA infection, and that caused her body to go into sepsis.
Yes, it went into septic shock. So I think the first time I got it,
And this was a month after you had the ICD put in
2021.
Okay.
December of 2021, this is all happening. I think that they were like, I guess my mom was telling my cardiologist all of the symptoms I was having, and she just assumed. But I think it was that night that I went to the ER, or like the next day, I had to go back and get my ICD taken out so that the MRSA didn't have anything to like connect to, basically. And they could just like, they were going to then kill it off with antibiotics. So they took it out, and then I stayed in the hospital for like 7 days, just miserable because I had to be isolated for for a good amount of those days. And I was still like, for the first, I don't think I started actually feeling well again until like 5 days into the stay, when everything was under control. Like my fever had broken. I wasn't puking anymore. I was like feeling as fine as you could be feeling. Yeah.
But now you don't have an ICD.
Yeah, but then I didn't have an ICD anymore. Yeah, I went home after 7 days, and I had a PICC line in, which is like, it's basically a long-term IV that they'll put in right underneath your shoulder, like in your inner arm, right underneath your shoulder, and the line goes through your arteries again, and the antibiotics will drip onto your heart. So I went home with that, and I had to have it in for 6 weeks. So that was a journey. It was really unfortunate because, I mean, I was a 7th grader, and so I had to go back to school with a loose bag full of antibiotics attached to my body. So that like wasn't really a fun experience. I was at like a really small private school though, so it wasn't like horrible, but like, I was 13. I was already insecure beforehand, and now it was like a huge like light up arrow was on me because I was out for 7 days with sepsis pretty much. And so yeah, that was kind of annoying. Don't really recommend that, but yeah. So I was then like really starting to feel everything. So I was recovering from 2 different procedures that happened a month apart, and then also a horrible life-threatening reaction was going on in my body. I was still like, I mean, my body was still hardcore fighting this bacteria, making sure that like nothing was happening. And I think actually that time I think I had like a clot right next to my heart. I think it was either this time or the first time or the second time. Either time I had a clot right next to my heart, and it was just a clump of this infection. And so I had to be put on blood thinners to clear it up, I guess. So I was also recovering from that. There were just so many things happening in my body. So I was like just horribly drained at 13 years old, which is not a nice feeling because like you want to be social and like hang out with friends 24/7. And like also a lot of like none of my friends really understood what was happening with that. Like rightfully so, because it was such a unique experience. So it was just like all of that was happening. I had to figure out like had to work through these social situations and then also like make sure I wasn't growing bitter against God because this was happening. So it was just a whole bunch of things happening.
How were you feeling about God? I mean, were you did you talk to him at all through all of this? Did you feel like he was leading you at all?
Unfortunately, not really. I wasn't growing bitter against him, but I definitely wasn't talking to him as much as I should have been.
Do you think you weren't talking to him out of being upset with him, or you just didn't feel like it, or?
No, I just didn't really feel like it. Even before that all had happened, I hadn't really had a relationship with him. I just like, I don't know. I guess like before then I was already just feeling so drained. Like I would read my Bible, but I would never like sit and pray. I would kind of just like pray before I went to sleep and be like, oh, please refresh my body when I wake up, like that sort of thing. Nothing like intense and serious. Throughout all of this, I don't think I've ever grown bitter against God. I feel like I've kind of just realized that this is my testimony. This is what God wants to do in my life. I know that he's protecting me through all of it. And yeah, I do think now that I'm thinking about it, I do think afterwards, like I was starting to pray more seriously and be like pray and like ask God to like make sure make sure I wasn't growing bitter against him. Like, like pray and be like, God, like I don't want this situation to cause my heart to be hardened towards you. Like I want that sort of thing. Like I want you to like, I don't know how to word it, but like I want to make sure that I'm still like we're still locked in. Like we're still like good. I don't want this to affect anything, and like I don't want this to affect our relationship negatively. That sort of thing.
Okay, so that happens when you're 13. You get
Yes.
So at this point, you're finishing up with the PIC line, but you don't have an ICD.
Yes.
And because of our condition, it is we have to have an ICD because we have this sudden death gene that can literally, your heart can just stop for no, if you have this gene, your heart can just stop for no reason.
Yeah.
And you will drop dead. I don't want to, I'm going to have people from my family listening to this, and I don't really want to stir up bad memories, but my sister was awake and playing the Wii with her kids, and she passed away in the middle of that. That's how this gene works.
Yeah.
And so we have to have the ICD. So now Ava's had this surgery and her ICD's been removed because of the infection. So then what? How long do you go without it?
So, well, okay. First, we also have the ICD because I don't know if it's in like within your siblings, but
yeah, no, it plays a dual role as a pacemaker also.
Yeah, so we have something else called an atrioventricular block, an AV block for short, of the first degree. So first degree isn't as serious as second degree, but it basically just means that like our heart rhythm is messed up. So like we don't, I think there are some people in my family that their heart.
When Mom hears this, she's gonna roll
I know.
her eyes. We sound like kindergartners trying to explain this.
I don't understand it like super well, but there's
My
some
wife
people.
is the expert.
She is the expert. So there are some people in our family where their heart beats too fast. And then there are others where their heart beats too slow. I think my older sister cares. Her heart beats too slow. And I'm pretty sure Declan's heart beats, my older brother, his heart beats too fast. And so I think my heart beats too fast as well. And so that it beats too fast. And so then it'll slow down because it's overworking itself. So the ICD, it does that.
So the point is,
it paces.
we have to have it.
Yes.
And now
it's
Ava,
essential to life.
Because of this infection, she's had it taken out, but she's got to get another one.
Yeah. So I went through the rest of my 7th grade year without it. And I was feeling the effects. I was exhausted, but it was also like hard to know whether that was from me not having an ICD or just my body was still recovering from the trauma it experienced in the hospital. Because believe it or not, septic shock really takes it out of you. So, I was definitely feeling feeling the effects. And I didn't end up getting another ICD until December of 2022. I had it put back in the same place. And and then again, a month afterwards, the same thing happened, but to a worse degree.
Okay. So you got the ICD put in December of 2022.
Yes.
Everything seemed like it was going to be okay.
Everything was fine. We thought we got the green light because I'm pretty sure they put me on antibiotics afterwards. But then the MRSA showed back up. And the MRSA showed back up, and like the same thing happened as the last time. But
let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
When you started to feel sick, did it occur to you that the same thing was happening?
Yes, actually, I remember I was throwing up again. This is kind of irrelevant, but I just remember I took a really funny picture of myself as I was throwing up. Like, not like, like right after. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But, but I was like, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, it's happening again. It was like, there's literally no way that this is happening again. I refuse to believe it. So I just, in my mind, I just thought I just convinced myself that it was a stomach bug until I started passing out, which was like, I think it was the second day I was home, and I literally, I never fully hallucinated, but I just remember one experience where it was at night, and mom got me medicine ball tea, or she made it or something, and she was trying to give it to me. Do you remember this? She was trying to give it to me, and she was like, Ava, take it. You have to hold on to it. And giving me the mug. And I was like, Mom, I have it in my hands. Let go. I can take it. And I could feel the mug in my hands. And then I was out cold. I completely passed out. And I was fully convinced that I was holding the mug of tea until I talked to my mom about it in the hospital. I was like, I was holding that mug, wasn't I? And she's like, no, not even a little bit. So that just shows you how out of it I was. I was it had the sepsis had pretty much already set in by the time I was while I was still at home. It happened both experiences. It happened so quickly. It all it basically the MRSA started attaching to my leads and going through my I guess coming back alive or whatever as soon as the ICD was in my body again.
And this is roughly a year later after you've had it
Yeah.
removed the first time.
So I
So I just want to say this. Number one, to keep my own mind straight, but just if you're following along, she got her first ICD put in November of 2021.
yeah.
And then she had the MRSA and the sepsis a month later in
December
late in
of
December, because I
2021.
actually remember they were in the hospital and we hadn't even put our Christmas decorations up yet. And
Yeah.
so me and my other daughter, Karis, tried to decorate the house for Christmas before they came home. But, it's a man's touch and not a woman's touch. So, I mean, Karis did a great job. But
She did. But while all that was happening as well, the first time, Mila, my oldest sister, she was still away in England. So all of this
Right.
was happening while she was out of the house. So Karis was basically holding the house on her shoulders, as the woman of the house for over a week.
Right. And then, I mean, Karis was an immense help to me because I was running back. I was still trying to work and going up to Hopkins at night. And so Karis really carried the load at home
Yeah.
for that week. So shout out to Karis.
She'll appreciate this.
So anyway, so that's the first time. That's
Yes.
end of December 2021. Ava has the first ICD taken out, goes on the antibiotic, and then the following December.
Yeah, December of 2022, the ICD is re-implanted.
A new one.
A new one. A new one is re-implanted. They think everything is going to be fine because why wouldn't it be? I was on 6 weeks of antibiotics from the PIC line, which is the antibiotics are immediately in your bloodstream. So they thought everything was killed off. And then January of 2023,
it happens again.
It happens again. And I was in 8th grade by this time. And
Ava, I remember when you guys had to go to the emergency room. You went to Anne Arundel Medical Center first, which is Anne Arundel Medical Center is the local hospital in Annapolis.
Yeah.
So my wife took her to Anne Arundel first.
Yeah.
And I want to know what's happening in your mind.
I was so out of it. I can't really remember anything. It was I don't know. I was so in and out. I barely remember anything that was happening. I think we went in the morning, and I do remember being so against it just because I was just so I wasn't
Because
in.
no one wanted to go down this road again.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So I think maybe we were all in just a little bit of denial.
Well, I don't know if I was ever in denial, but because in the back of my mind, I was yeah, it's probably happening again. I just didn't want it to happen again.
I was definitely in denial because I didn't want to have to face that again.
Yeah. So it was really I don't know. I can't even fully remember anything that was happening. We went in the morning and I was pretty much just sobbing the entire time because I was just so upset and I didn't want it to be true. But yeah, I think as soon as we were put in a room, I fell asleep and I was just in and out for the rest of the time that we were there. We were only there for one,
not even a whole day.
Yeah. We didn't end up spending the night there.
Anne Arundel, it became clear to Amy, my wife, throughout the course of the day, it became clear to her that Anne Arundel Medical Center really, they just, they don't have the cardiology department and resources that Johns Hopkins has. And that's, Johns Hopkins is where we go to for these issues. But Ava was in such a state that, we live only about 10 minutes from Anne Arundel Medical Center, and it just seemed like we needed to get her somewhere fast. So we took her to that emergency room. But as the day went on, it became clear to Amy that they really didn't know how to handle the situation. So Amy called our cardiologist, and the cardiologist was like, yeah, we need to get her to Hopkins.
She was in, the entire time, I think from the start, from the beginning of my sickness again, she was in contact with my cardiologist, and Dr. De La Uz is my cardiologist. And she was the one that recommended that we go to Anne Arundel first. And then when we got there, they were like trying to put me on antibiotics before. And that's when my mom called her and was like, they're trying to do this, but I don't think that's a good idea. What, blah, 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 whatever. And so my Dr. De La Uz immediately got in contact with them, and they're like, we're sending an ambulance over. Like, we can't let this happen. So then I was, what?
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I took an ambulance ride over, but as another show that I was so out of it, I remember I fully convinced myself that the person that was putting me on the ambulance looked exactly like Lin-Manuel Miranda. And looking back at it, he didn't look anything like Lin-Manuel Miranda. He didn't have any facial hair. He was completely bald. So I was just so out of it. And I feel like I kind of remember I did that just to make myself feel better because it was such a horrible situation. So yeah, I was ambulanced over. I don't really remember the ride because, again, I was passing out.
So before you keep going with
times.
that, I want to mention something here. I was at home. I'm not sure. We just decided it would be better for me to stay at home and for Amy to stay at the hospital with Ava at Anne Arundel. So when Amy called me and said that they were going to have to send a hospital from Hopkins up to Anne Arundel to pick up Ava, which is about a 25 to 30 minute ride from Baltimore to Annapolis. She asked me to put a bag together for Ava and for her because they were going to at least be spending the night at Hopkins. So, I'm at this point, what's going on in me is I am starting to battle fear in a pretty big way. And I'm trying to pray, and I'm seeking after God, like what's the right thing to do for me, and how do I need to be? And I heard God speak to me and say 7 days. And I wasn't sure if that was God, but 7 days it kept coming to me like she's going to be in the hospital for 7 days. And I don't know why. At that point, I didn't know why he was telling me that, but that's all I got. So I got to the hospital and I met Amy in the parking garage and I handed her the bags. And Amy said, I think she'll probably be out by... This was Sunday night. And Amy said to me, I think she'll probably be out by Tuesday or Wednesday. And Amy was very hopeful that that was going to be the case. And so I didn't feel like I should say that I felt like it was 7 days. Because, number one, I didn't really know if that was God. It seemed like it was, but... when you're in a situation like that, you got a lot of things going on inside. And so I took Amy's word and I wanted to hold on to what she was saying. She said Tuesday or Wednesday, and I preferred to believe that, and she preferred to believe that. So I didn't feel like I was going to say to her, no, it's going to be 7 days. So that's what was happening with me. And then, also I'm still needing to work. In episode 2, you met John Lombardo. I was actually working with him again at that time. He had a job that I was helping him out on. And these will become important details. That's why I'm telling you this right now. So, okay, so Ava, you are heading to Baltimore on the hospital.
Yes.
And you get to Hopkins. Do you remember what happens when you get to Hopkins that night?
Not really. I think... by that time, I think they had already put an IV in. So I think they just immediately rushed me in to take my ICD out. again. And yeah, like unfortunately, I don't really remember a lot of it. I think part of it was because I was so doped up on pain medications and antibiotics. But I think a lot of it is also just like, your brain protects you from traumatic experiences. I do remember like coming to I also remember this hospital visit was a lot more traumatizing, I think, because first, I do remember now. So the first time I was in the hospital with the sepsis, I was in there for 8 days. And so, yeah, the second time I was only in there for 7. But, yeah, I think it was just more traumatizing for me because I had to be in the PCICU, which is the pediatric cardiology intensive care unit. I had to be there almost the entire time. I was only allowed to go, like I was only put up to 9 North, which is like the recovery wing. I was only put up there like at the very end. So I like understood what the PCICU is. That's like the intensive care unit. You have like nurses were coming in every 30 minutes to an hour. So I was never really getting a break and like time to myself, I guess. Because like
Ava's one who really needs
yeah,
her time to
I
herself.
really needed that. And it was also hard because unfortunately I had a really bad attitude the entire time. So people were coming in and they were like trying to cheer me up, and I was kind of just like, literally just leave me alone. Like, I'm just trying to deal with this. Like, this is, I mean, like, I think at that time I was 14. So I was like a 14-year-old girl having to go through this. I wasn't getting any sort of privacy, and it was just like really hard. It was a hard time. 'Cause like I don't really remember. I think this time they had to put in an arterial bloodline, which is like, it's something that they will put in your wrist, in one of the arteries in your wrist, to measure your heart rate so that you don't have to like have a arm cuff the entire time. So that's like it's basically a procedure. So they had to put me under for that. And that was like, I don't know. That's obviously traumatizing. Cause then like, I just remember like I came to and I had another IED or IV like coming out of my wrist, but it was stitched in. So it was really uncomfortable. But I do remember when they put me under, I was like completely high. And I was like having hallucinations, or not really. Yeah, I guess hallucinations. That was a really strange experience. I remember my mom put on a playlist for me, and I felt like I was like, I remember waking back up and like telling, I think my mom and my dad were right next to me, and I was like, I literally said, I know I sound high right now, but I was literally inside the songs, and I genuinely like thought I was. There was like one song that was playing, and I in my head I was like laying in a canoe, like going down a river with like purple flowered trees. So it was, I don't know, it was really weird. So that was like the highlight of that trip. But yeah, it was just really like, that was coming back from that. That was also just hard. I had like a million IVs coming out of my hands and like in my arms. And it just like, I just felt like a sick person, and that really sucked because nobody wants to feel like a sick person.
And this was in January, right?
Yeah.
And I think my cousin Jesse had passed away that December.
I think so, yeah.
Right. So I have a cousin named Jessie, and she also obviously had this. She had issues with her heart as well, and she actually had to have a heart transplant when she was like 13 or 14, and she actually she lived a great life, especially for someone with her condition. But in December, before all this was happening with Ava, Jesse passed away. And Jesse was my cousin, but we have a pretty close family. So, she was kind of like a sister in a sense also. So we were all sort of still dealing with that. And then here's Ava in the same hospital where Jesse passed, going through all of this in the intensive care unit. And so it was a very scary time for those of us, outside, those of us that were just having to watch. It was a very scary time.
Yeah. It was just really unfortunate. It was a really unfortunate series of events that was occurring.
Were you ever scared?
Not really, honestly. I don't really know if I ever really experienced fear throughout all of that. I wasn't like regularly reading my Bible or praying in the hospital, but I mean I just like had faith in God, and I never thought that I was going to die. I like messed her not no, I don't want to say that, but like I was like, oh, am I gonna die? I was like, no, there's no way. Like, I'm fine. Like, you know. Yeah, I never really was afraid of that happening to me. I've had near death experiences though. I think well, that's like on like further down in the timeline. But yeah, I never thought.
So, from my perspective, at this time we were, yeah, I am self-employed and I work in a seasonal business, and so this is the winter, and I'm having some financial difficulty. It's just kind of the normal difficulty you go through when you're running a seasonal business. The winters can be pretty lean. So that being said, I have to work because I've got so John Lombardo's got this paint job going on, and he's got me working with him to help me out, help get me some money. And I have to go. I have to show up. I have to work because I just can't afford to take off and sit in the hospital as much as I want to. And so I'm kind of like I just want to share my side of this because it does kind of factor in. I'm carrying a little bit of guilt because I know that Amy is carrying most of the load of having to be there with Ava, and she's like on the front lines, and there's really nothing I can do aside from work and then show up at the hospital when I can. And I would say, so we took her to the hospital on Sunday, and I would say that Tuesday and Wednesday of that week, a spirit of fear got a hold of me on that paint job that I was working on. I was working in an empty house, and at the time no one was there. It was just me working, and a spirit of fear got a hold of me, and I just remember I started breaking down. And here's the thing. I trust God. I have a lot of faith in him. But I also know that trusting God doesn't always mean that things are going to work out the way you want them to. You're just trusting Him with however they work out. And, I've said earlier, we've dealt with we've dealt with a decent amount of loss in my family, and I know what it feels like to be called into the side room of the hospital and have the doctor look at you with eyes full of sorrow and tell you, we did everything we could. I know what that feels like. I've had that happen more than once. And that kept playing in my mind while I was working in this house. And it was like batter in my head, and I was losing it. I was losing it, man. I could not imagine losing one of my kids. But I was facing the reality of it, because on Wednesday of that week, there was a period of time where it was really touch and go with Ava. She may not realize exactly what was happening, but I had gone up there Tuesday night, and the doctors were not giving us a whole lot of hope. And Wednesday was really scary, and I was freaking out. And then I remembered 7 days. And that became something that I could hold on to. It became something that I could stand on. Like, when I was on my way to the hospital on Sunday, I heard God say 7 days. So when I remembered 7 days, I thought, she's coming home. She's going to make it. We just got to get through this hump. And I want to say, like, working there, and John Lombardo was on the job sometimes, and being able to have him, to talk to at certain points, that really was a help for me too. But I'm saying all that to say it's amazing how God brings things together, even in the midst of a time when you feel at your lowest. He puts pieces in place to let you know that He's still in control. And it was nice to know that, as desolate as I felt, I still could look at certain things and know that God was in control. And when I remembered that He had said 7 days, it brought a calmness to me and a peace, and I was able to just take the whole thing and put it back in His hands. And I just wanted to share with you my side. So, Ava, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I made it through. I came home that Sunday.
So after Wednesday, you started to progress.
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate. I don't really remember a lot of what happened during that time.
We'll get Amy in here.
Yeah, she'll explain everything a lot better.
Stuff.
Yeah, it was. I never experienced any fear, like, with my life, in terms of my life. I never thought I was gonna die. I don't know. I think, I mean, even the first time, I never really thought that, but I was also just so out of it. Like, I couldn't really form coherent thoughts for a little while, just trying, to recover. I do remember with both times, I had just a really bad attitude, because I just didn't want to be there. I wanted to be at home. Yeah, I I don't know. I think I don't know. I can't really remember the timeline of anything. It was like, yeah, I don't really know. I came home that Sunday with a PICC line again. I think they had a harder time putting, I think like one of the more unfortunate situations while I was in the hospital was when they were trying to place my PICC line. It's like pretty hard to put it in, believe it or not. But that was a little more difficult. They were trying to put it in the same spot they put it in before then, but they caused a hematoma, I think it's called, which is like a bruise, and my artery was starting to like spaz out. So they had to take out the PICC line. Like they weren't even able to fully place it, so they had to take it out and put it in my other arm. And so that was like, it like prolonged the whole process. And the first time they put in my PICC line, I remember I was like doped up completely on anxiety medication. And so like I was fully out of it. I was fully numb in my arm, so I couldn't feel anything. But the second time I was in the hospital and they were placing it, I was pretty much fully aware. Like I was numb, and like they still did numb my arm, but like I was aware enough that I knew what was going on. And so I was like, I was laying in my hospital bed and they were just like messing around with my arm trying to place my PICC line. And I was just like sobbing, and I was so upset because it was so much more difficult for them to figure out what they were doing. Yeah, I also like am severely allergic to the adhesive that they will put over your PICC, like over IVs or PICC lines to like keep it in place. So with the entire 6 weeks that I had my PICC line in, my arm was like, there was like a horrible rash, like blistering, oozing, just absolutely disgusting, like rash that would form around and under my adhesives.
And you're a 14-year-old girl just trying to live life.
Yeah, literally. And so I remember the second time I got my PICC line and they gave me an adult one. So the difference between a kid one and an adult one is a kid PICC line has something called a butterfly. So they will clip, it's basically like a clip. They put a clip in right inside of your arm from like where the hole is. For the adult one, they don't have that. So this is where my basketball journey comes back to haunt me. So I remember I was in 8th grade. I was just playing basketball with my classmates, and like every day I would do that and I would shoot the ball, and like my PICC line would inch out further and further. And I would also be itching my arm because there's a rash that's forming, and it's like, it's itchy. So I would like, itch it. And so 4 weeks after I had that placed, I came back like 4 weeks afterwards. I remember I had to go back to Hopkins and they had to replace my PICC line because too much of it was out for it to be like useful. So I remember I had to go up with my dad, and it was just absolutely horrible. And I was just so upset. And so they had to give me a kid's PICC line. And it was the whole thing. Since I was in the emergency room, they weren't allowed to give me like the amount of anxiety medication I had the first time, or like, yeah, the first time I put it in. So I was like, again, with that, I was like fully aware. I knew everything that was happening, and like I didn't feel anything, but like I knew it was happening. And so, yeah, and then I had to go to school the next day.
And also, the ICD that they put in, the second ICD that they put in, is now out.
Yeah. So I didn't have my ICD anymore by that time. Huh? Yeah, so I didn't have my ICD yet again. This is in 2023 now. This is all happening in 2023. So, finally.
But I want to say, in that the stay in the hospital where your ICD was removed,
Yeah.
and all of this happened, and that wound up being a 7-day stay, right?
Yeah, I already said that.
And it was amazing that on the way home from the hospital that day, I'll never forget, we saw a double rainbow.
Yes, we did.
That was awesome.
It was awesome. Yep. And so that kind of confirmed that I would never have sepsis again. Not that I would never have trouble with my ICD, but that I would never experience having sepsis again. So
you're now with no ICD
I'm
again.
now with no ICD again.
Okay. And this is 2023.
So, yeah. So now I'm really starting to become aware of how helpful ICDs can actually be to someone that has an AV block and needs to be paced. I was never afraid of dying without it. Because I didn't really understand. I knew that people had just, this sudden death thing is literally called sudden death syndrome. And I understood that happened, but I never thought that was going to happen to me. And actually, it did. But that's further on in the timeline. So later on in 2023, in August, I had the ICD placed again, but this time it was a full-on open heart surgery. It was a full-on sternotomy. So that means that when they had to cut my chest bone to place my ICD because they were no longer going through the arteries.
They decided to place the ICD in a different location because they were thinking that possibly the location was
the issue.
That was a part of what was causing the infection. So they decided to place the ICD at the bottom of your sternum.
Yeah.
And that required what you said,
a sternotomy, which is, so it was an open heart surgery. I had to have an open heart surgery for them to place this ICD again. Because, the normal procedure for an ICD, like I said, the leads go through the arteries. So, that was a really unfortunate stay because I was aware of everything that was happening. I wasn't out of it. I wasn't going through any infections. So I was fully knew what was happening. And I definitely think I said that the second stay with sepsis was the most traumatizing, but I do think that this one was the most traumatizing. It was leading up to it, the date had been changed so many times just because of there were scheduling issues with it. So originally I thought that I was going to be able to have it the beginning in June of 2023, and then originally I thought I was going to be able to get it in March of 2023, then something got messed up, and then it was changed to June 2023, and then something got messed up again. So I was already just really on a roller coaster of emotions because I was exhausted 24/7, and I just wanted to feel okay again. I wanted to feel like I was actually a living person.
And we're also in the process of trying to plan a wedding.
Yes. So I was also in Mila and Nathaniel.
Her oldest
oldest sister and my brother-in-law, they had just gotten engaged they got engaged in July. But so they were planning a wedding while I was recovering from open heart surgery.
Right, because we don't like long engagements. So
Yeah.
the wedding was planned for the end of September.
Yes.
So all of this is happening, and we're also trying to get a wedding together.
Yeah. So
thank God for, I'm going to say thank God for Nathaniel's family, because they really stepped in and helped put that together and took a lot of the weight from that off of our shoulders.
yes. August of 2023, I had a full-on an open heart surgery. That was really difficult. It was like, I don't know. There were just so many things happening in my mind that I had a lot of fear with. That this was like the first time I had actually experienced like being fearful about it. Not that like I thought anything was happening, but just because like I didn't know what was going to happen afterwards. I didn't know if I was going to get sick again, because like there was already so many things that had happened that were like unheard of. So it was kind of just like I was absolutely expecting the worst. I do remember though the Thursday night before the surgery, because I guess I was going in on either a Friday or Saturday. I think it was a Friday. I was going in on a Friday. That Thursday night, the church prayed for me. Like me, my dad, and my mom all went up at the altar, and everyone prayed for us. And I remember after we were done praying, pastor said that he believed that an angel was like I don't remember how he worded it, but it was basically like there was going to be an angel present in the OR, and the angel was going to guide the surgeon's hands, so everything was going to be okay. And so that made me feel better. But like it was also still nerve-wracking, because I hadn't experienced having a surgery, an open heart surgery, since I was 5. So I literally did not know what to expect. But like I knew that I was going to be okay. I knew that everything was going to work out for the best. And it did, but there was still like some things that were still just really messing with me. I mean, like nothing, like not messing with me, but like, like I was still really anxious in the hospital. When you go through something like an open heart surgery, they will put in something called a chest tube, which is something that is attached or that's placed inside your chest. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's in your chest and it's a tube, and it's wrapped up around your heart so that it can like drain any fluids that will surround your heart. Because like when stuff like that happens, like it's basically when something swells up in your body that there's like the swollen part, that's fluid. And so that happens when something is inflamed. So around your heart, when you have that, there's like fluid that surrounds your heart, and that can actually be fatal to you, obviously, because that's like it's a foreign fluid. It's not supposed to be there. So the chest tube will drain it out, and normally it goes in right in between your ribs. But since that was where my ICD was placed, was right in between my ribs, so they had to literally go through my rib bones. And so it was like 1,000 times more painful than it needed to be, and it was like so much longer than it needed to be. So it was literally wrapped up around my heart, and it caused a lot of pain, and like I could barely sit upright. It hurt so bad. And like the doctors want you to sit up and they want you to stand and like walk around so that they know that you're doing okay. And so that like also your body doesn't forget how to do those things. Um, but it's obviously really hard to do that when you're in that much pain. And so, I mean, it was just something that I had to fight through. I had to like walk around with the chest tube in, which I mean, I'm starting to become redundant, but it's like excruciating. Like I'm not over exaggerating. So it was like, I don't know. It was just, it didn't feel good. And so I had to like do all that while that stuff was happening, but also like while like my chest had just been cut open. So I think I only had like that hospital stay was only like 5 days, I think.
Which was kind of miraculous. I mean, you healed from that faster than they expected you to.
Yeah, because I mean I was fighting. I did not want to be in that hospital any longer than than I needed to be, because I just wanted to be at home. And I mean, yeah.
So you now, and that ordeal right there is getting now that's your third ICD that you've had placed,
Yeah.
and that's in a new location. So we're thinking we are good.
Well, yeah, but I still have something to say about that. This
Fire
hospital
away.
trip. Okay. When they took out the chest tube, that was like, I mean, so they would also have to drain it. So they would have to like hold on to the tube and pull pull on it while squeezing it so that all of the fluid would go into this little like box that was carrying all of my heart fluid in it, basically. And that hurt really bad. And then they had to take it out. And I mean, I just remember it hurt. And I could see the person that was doing it. So it was stitched into me. So she had to cut the stitches. And then she basically took it out, kind of like how you rev up an engine for a lawnmower. Or like, does that make sense? Yeah. And yeah, so just imagine that motion, but like with a doctor taking a chest tube out of a teenage girl, and it hurt really bad. So that was really unfortunate. That was pretty horrible. And then I remember they also had another arterial bloodline, but this time it was in my neck. So they had to take that out. So I was just like all wired up. It was bad. But then I came out of it, and then I was a bridesmaid a month later. So it was pretty great. Yeah. But I mean, it was also hard because like now, like the location that they put it in, it was pretty obvious. Like if I wore a shirt that was like even the littlest bit tight, like you could see it sticking, you could see my ICD sticking out of the shirt. And so that was like, it was kind of just like having to like learn how to be okay with that, and also learn how to be okay with the fact that God was having me go through this again.
So what is your relationship with God like at this point?
I think it's a lot stronger than it was. I think even after the whole bout with sepsis the second time, I do remember coming out of like the first Sunday that I was back, and I mean, I was kind of just like, I remember praying in worship and just being like, God, like I'm not necessarily okay that this happened to me, but I understand that this is something that you willed, or like this was in your will. You wanted this, or like, yeah, you wanted this to happen to me. So please let me be like, I don't know how to, I don't remember necessarily how I worded it, but like, show me how you want me to use this testimony, basically. And I just like kept on saying that. Like I just remember also saying like, I don't want this to cause me to be bitter against you. I want to do with this. Like, I want to use the story in the way, or use this testimony in the way that you want me to use it. Like I said, I told him, I was like, I'm not going to let this just be something that happened. Like, I'm not, if that makes sense. Like, this has to be something for my testimony. I don't want it to be just something that happened. Does that make sense?
Amen.
So, yeah, at this point, in this moment, I feel like my relationship with God has gotten a lot stronger, even through this. I still don't understand why this happened to me, why God wanted this to happen to me, but I've got time.
Well, we're not to the end yet, are we?
No, we're not to the end yet. So then, now I'm entering. No, that was at the beginning of my freshman year. So now I'm good. I'm good for about a year and a half.
But in December of that year.
Oh, yeah. In December of that year, I died. My heart stopped. I think I think the date was December 17th. My heart stopped and I got shocked. But I wasn't awake when it happened. I think the doctors said that it happened at like 7 a.m. and it was on a Saturday. So I didn't know that it happened. I just remember waking up feeling sore. And so we didn't know that I got shocked until January of that year. January 2024.
And I just want you guys to understand, she had gone for 8 months without the ICD.
Yeah.
She gets the ICD put in August, and then in December, the ICD does what it's supposed to do. And how can you not look at that and see God's hand? I mean, so I say thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, literally. But actually, I just remembered, originally they had put the procedure that they did for me, or the surgery that they did for me for my ICD, it is something that they do, but they'll place it it is something that they'll do, and they have done this surgery before, but normally it's for babies or people that are really, really large. It's so that it can will,
which Ava's definitely not.
Yeah. So but they wouldn't place the ICD in the place that they put it. So normally with they'll still do the sternotomy, but they typically they'll put the ICD under the ribs and and then connect the leads how they did with me. But actually, they had placed it that way first, and then they'll shut your heart off when they put the ICD in just to make sure it works. And so they shut my heart off, and they tried to shock me, and I wouldn't come back. My heart wouldn't, it wasn't shocked enough for it to come back. And then they had to pull out the actual paddles and do the whole clear thing to get me back. So that's why they put the ICD in the place that they put it. So yeah, just remember that
closes out 2023.
Yes. And then I'm good for 2024.
December 2023, you had the shock.
Yeah.
2024 goes without incident for the most part, right?
I don't think there was any incident.
And then what?
Oh, wait, actually, going far back in the timeline, 2022, right after I was done dealing with everything from sepsis, a tree fell on our house.
Well, yeah.
Not that that's important to this storyline, but I just wanted to say we had a rough bout for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So we thought in 2024 we were
That's
finally...
a different podcast episode.
Yeah, we thought that in 2024 we were finally hitting our mountaintop. And we were, but then we hit a valley in May of 2025.
Just this past May.
Yeah, just this past May, we found out that my leads weren't working properly.
Well, what started happening?
My ICD started making, like, it started going off. It wouldn't shock me.
So the ICD has an alarm in it. Mine has gone off to notify me when the battery is getting low. You have to go in to have the ICD replaced. So there's actually an alarm that goes off that you can hear. It's really a strange feeling, but
it is.
you hear this sound coming out of your body. And so that's what was happening to Ava in class.
Yeah, the very first time it happened, I remember it clear as day. I was sitting in my AP government class. We were watching Batman: The Dark Knight because we had already done the AP exams, so we had a free class basically. And then it went off. I think I was like reaching down to grab a pencil, and then I just heard a siren sound, and I looked down at my stomach, and sure enough, it was coming from there. So I had to get up out of class, and I went to my teacher, and I was like, my ICD is going off. I need to go to the nurses right now. And she heard it. She looked down at my stomach, and she was like, okay, go now. And it goes off for a while. Like, this sound, it's not like a 5-second thing. It goes off for like close to a minute. So I was running down the halls with this siren sound coming from my body. And it was just like, it felt like a fever dream. Because that was literally my worst nightmare. Like, I would sit in class and think sometimes like, oh my gosh, what if my ICD goes off right now? And I felt like I was in a nightmare. And so I went down to the office to the nurse's office. And I just sat in there until, I can't remember if it was you or Mom that it was you, I think. Yeah, you picked me up. And then it kept on like going off throughout the next couple of days until on Saturday, I think. No, maybe it was a Monday.
No, we went up on a Sunday because we were like the only ones in the hospital.
Yeah, we went up on Sunday, and they had to shut off my ICD because if anything else were to happen, then my ICD would have shocked me inappropriately. So
they had to turn it off.
They turned it off, and then they scheduled my surgery. But I think I had an appointment. At that point,
you didn't know that you were going to require surgery. They just, the lady who takes care of she's called an electrophysiologist, and she's sort of the expert on the ICDs. And so when we went to the hospital on Sunday, she met us there, and she ran it through a bunch of tests and just decided that she would shut the ICD off, and we would come back when the cardiologist was there, and we would sort of figure out what the next steps were going to be.
But I don't even think we had an opportunity to have a meeting with the cardiologist, because I think Mom just kept on. I think she just called her, and they were just texting about it, and I think it was that Monday.
It seems like the whole situation started with sort of an exploratory surgery to figure out what was going on.
Yeah, so I think that Monday the cardiologist was talking, or like as soon as my mom texted Dr. DeLuz about what was happening, she immediately got in touch with the people that like the company that makes the ICDs. It's Boston Tech or something like that. So I think they figured out that it had something to do with my leads. So basically what was happening was my leads were like too close to each other. So the
I don't know
insulation.
if we explained this, but the leads are the wires that come all off of the ICD and attach to the heart. And so if a shock is needed, it's delivered through the leads. And the leads also, like, that's like the ICD is sort of like the brain, and the ICD and the leads are what carry out the functions. So
Yeah.
they will regulate the electrical flow, and they will deliver the shock if it's needed.
I also forgot to mention, I think it was the first time I had sepsis. They also found out that my leads detached from my heart. And they had like the leads had gone all the way up to like my shoulder because I was playing basketball too early after it happened. So basketball pretty much just always came back to haunt me. But yeah, anyway, they figured out this last time they figured out that the leads, like, they were too close together and they were like rubbing up against each other. So the insulation was like rubbing off, I guess, and there was like there wasn't anything insulating the leads anymore. So it was like, yeah, it was just overreacting and going off. But yeah, I remember right after, or like my mom had just gotten off the phone with Dr. De La Uz, and she came up in my room. Or no, I met her on the stairs, and she was like, "You have to have surgery again." And I broke down and I started sobbing. And I was so upset. And I was upset with God because it's just like, well, now why is this happening again? Like, I thought you promised, basically, sort of thing. Not that I had gotten sepsis, but like, I still thought like that meant I never had to have something like this happen again, where I had to I had to go through everything, have to have this whole experience, like, have to re-heal in multiple different ways. And yeah, I didn't stay mad at him for long because I kind of just like accepted it.
But we didn't know that it was going to be initially. We didn't know that it was going to be as involved as it wound up being.
No,
Right?
so yeah, and that was like part of the issue for me because like they didn't really have any answers. They were like, I think the doctors they said like this could either be a sternotomy or it could be just like a simple little procedure. Like,
But they weren't going to know until they went in.
Yeah, they weren't going to know until they went in.
And that's what was really
that was what was most difficult.
And here's the thing you have to understand. When Ava went into surgery, she did not know exactly what they were going to have to do.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was going to wake up to.
Right. So that's so insane to me. And I remember the night. No. I can't remember if this was after the surgery and Mom, you were starting to come to, and Mom told you, because if it was going to have to be a sternotomy, that's a much longer healing period, and that meant she was going to have to stay in the hospital for more days, and that's what she really dreaded. And she did not know what what they were gonna what it was gonna be when she woke up. And I remember when she came to, Amy told her you had a sternotomy, and Ava just lost it because she
Yeah.
knew what the implications of that were. And I couldn't stand in front of her, and I walked around to the back of the bed, and I lost it. And
Yeah.
I thought to I said, God, why? Why are you making this girl go through this? Why are you doing this? And he said, she's mine. And I just had to be okay with it. I had to just give it to him and trust him. And that was a really difficult thing because this is the fourth time. And that was really tough.
Yeah, it was really tough. It was this whole healing process this last time, this was the hardest for me. Just because I mean, like, I just understood everything a lot better. I knew what was happening with my body. I just knew everything that was going on. I knew that I was responsible for myself now. And so I had to make sure that I was doing everything right, because if anything had gone wrong, or like if anything was messed up, it was on me. And like that meant that I would like I was putting myself back in that position. So it was a lot harder. It was also a lot harder because, like, as I said, I was severely allergic. I am severely allergic to adhesives and like bandages, and they will put on glue onto your scars instead of stitches. So the scar glue that they had to use, they put it on. I have 2 different scars from this surgery. One where my ICD is now placed right below my ribs, and then one like across my chest. And the one across my chest is like, I mean, it takes up a good chunk of my torso. And so I was like almost immediately out of surgery, I was already like starting to have like blisters around my incision. And I was like a couple of days after, I was like breaking out into blisters underneath the scar tape, like on top of my incision. And so we had to go to a post-op appointment, which is like a routine appointment, a week after. And they looked at my chest, and they had to, like, they realized how severely allergic I was already to the adhesives, and they saw like the blisters.
It was mortifying.
Yeah.
The way it looked. It was mortifying.
It was really, really horrible because they also had to put pressure tape over where my ICD was, to like make sure there was no swelling, and also like where my ICD previously was to like make sure there was no swelling. And so basically my entire stomach was like wrapped up in this thick white bandage, and I was breaking out into rashes like underneath the bandages, just like everywhere across my stomach and my chest. And it looked absolutely horrible. It was so miserable to experience. And so the week after, at my post-op appointment, they had to go in, they took off my pressure tape, and then they had to take off the actual glue that was on my incision so that I wouldn't have any further reactions. And it was just it was just so horrible. It was like it didn't hurt, but it was like just uncomfortable because I also like, it was just uncomfortable. And yeah, it was just unfortunate and pretty traumatizing. So yeah, that happened. But then the rest of my recovery time, like after that, I was pretty much fine. I was feeling good, which kind of made it harder because I still had so many restrictions on I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things because of it. Like the sternotomy like recovery time, you have like it feels like thousands of restrictions put on you for an 8-week period. And they're like very strict with it, obviously.
Which is the entire summer.
Yeah, which was the entire summer for me. So I wasn't able to swim at all. I wasn't able to do a lot of like normal summer things. I was pretty much just cooped up inside all day. Just healing. So, yeah.
It's as the father, it's hard to explain what it's like to have your kid literally all I could be is a spectator. I mean, there was just nothing I could do really. And I can't explain how that makes you feel as a father. But I will say, I'm probably say it at the end, but I'm going to say it now. Like, I couldn't be prouder of Ava for going through all of this. She had a better attitude than me at certain times, I know, because the only thing I can do is look at God and be like, why are you doing this, man? I mean, come on. When is enough enough? But I guess he just, one of the things that he's showing me and pulling me through is he's just showing me who's in charge, which I know that sounds a little, I don't know, sounds a little rough, but as parents, sometimes we can I'm going to say this. Some people might have an issue with it. I'm going to say this though. As parents, sometimes we can exert a little more ownership over our kids than really we're supposed to have. If you trust God and you give your kids to him, then at a certain point you have to say, all right, God, they're yours, and I don't know why you're doing it, but this is maybe something you're doing for her, and it's not about me, and I have to remove myself from the situation because there's nothing I can do anyway. So
Yeah.
I know that some people might struggle with that, but that's what I believe. So
Yeah.
Ava, how, how do you in your quiet moments and you think about all these things, like how has this affected you in your growing up, in your walk with God, and your and just becoming a human?
I don't know. I feel like so far it's only ever really like strengthened my relationship with God and like my faith and my trust in him, cuz it's like like how could I not trust in him when I've been through all of these like I don't know how to say it, but like life or like near death experiences. I've been through so many of them, and I mean, he's given me endless amounts of peace about it, even like in the situations and even like afterwards. And like he's shown me that he knows what he's doing. He's got his hand over my life. So I feel like it's only ever like it at this point in my life, it's only ever strengthened it. But sometimes I will sit and like I'll feel like right now I can only see like I feel like I've only gone through this for other people so that like other people can not benefit from it, but like have their own testimonies about it. And so like I'll struggle with feeling like this isn't my testimony. Like I only went through this for my family so that they could like whatever. You know what I mean?
But you know that's not true.
Yeah, but if I let myself sit and think about it long enough, just because I've never really been able to like testify about it or like use it as a testimony for other people, like tell other people about it, if that makes sense. But I guess that's what this is right now. It's me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's just it's a roller coaster for me sometimes. If I think too much about it, or like if I let myself stew in those feelings long enough, like if I let the doubt creep in, where it's like, this isn't my testimony, this is only for whoever, this is only for them, they've been the only ones that have been able to like benefit from this, or like not benefit, but like use this in whatever way, then like I just try not to think about it like that because that's not beneficial. But you know,
Well,
it's definitely something.
God definitely allows things in our lives to initially, I believe things that he allows in our lives are for the relationship between you and him.
Mm-hmm.
And then but it becomes something that you can then use to help other people, because you're not the only person who's ever going to have medical issues.
Yeah.
And there may be somebody listening to this podcast who is facing some serious medical issues, and maybe they can hear your story and hear how God carried you through and hear how you had such an amazing attitude and were able to weather these storms, and that can give them inspiration to face their own issues. So God can use this thing to develop his relationship with you, and then he can also use it to help inspire and carry someone else through. And that's the amazing way that God works. And that is the whole point of the Witness podcast, is an opportunity for people to tell their stories, not just so they can get on here and talk about themselves, but so that others can hear these stories and be inspired by them. And Avi, you are quite an inspiration.
Oh, stop. Yeah, I try. I don't ever want this experience to be something like these. When I say this experience, I mean like these last 4 years type of experience to like cause me to grow bitter against God. And I think what helped me to not was also like the support that I got, not only from my family, but also my friends, like people that were friends with my parents. You know, I had so many people give me gift baskets or like send me kind words on my mom's Instagram and Facebook posts about it. And like just people coming up to visit me. I feel like there were times that I would sit in the hospital and I would just thank God for all of these people, because it just helped me so much to realize like that people loved me and they were always there for me. So it just, it was just also just like a reminder of God's amazing love, because he did, like, it was his will for me to go through this, but it's never his will to like cause you to feel bad or like be discouraged. He doesn't want that, you know? So it was just really amazing to feel and experience all of this support and all of this love that I knew he was sending my way. So
before we've been going for a little while now, so we'll probably bring this to a close. But I do want to touch on something before we let this go, because I think it's something that people who are going through, similar situations can deal with, and I want to know if this is something that you struggle with, because it's your the whole reason why I felt like God was leading me to have you on the podcast is because of stuff that Dr. De La Hoz said to you in that room just recently. But, some of the residual effects after going through all of this, have you dealt with isolation and, knowing that you're not like the rest of your friends, and so there's the isolation and knowing that you're different and knowing that you're always going to be different. Like, are you aware of that daily, and how do you work through that?
I don't think I'm like, it's not something that's ever present in my mind, but I mean, it was something that, like, unknowingly, I feel like it was a struggle for me in my middle school years as I was going through everything, because I was just having a lot of friendship problems, because, nobody around me understood. And one of my best friends at the time, she just didn't get it. And it was kind of just turning into, like, a bullying situation, because I was like, I literally can't hang out today. Like, I know as soon as I get home, I'm going to crash. And so I, like, whatever. And she would just make me feel badly about it. But so I feel like it was worse at that time. But right now, I've kind of come a little bit more to terms with it, where it's like, yeah, I am going to be different. That's just something that's going to happen. But I don't know, like, I feel like I have a pretty good understanding that, like, this is God's will for my life. I trust that he knows what he's doing, because also, like, what else can I do? But, it is definitely a struggle, because, now at this point, I also feel like my story, for a while, my story was pretty similar to that of my family's, where I could, like, find community with them. And, like, we'd all understand, like, oh, yeah, like, we've all had to, or, like, a lot of us have had to, like, have open heart surgeries. We all had it, blah, blah, blah. Well, we've all had to, like, have pacemakers, but now it's like, yeah, but I had to go through 2 rounds of sepsis, and I had to
You've had 4 pacemakers.
Yeah, I've had 4 pacemakers, and I've had 3 open heart surgeries. So now it is a little more like it's not as bad as it was. The isolation doesn't feel as, like, all consuming as it once did, but yeah, it's still definitely something that I'm coming to terms with understanding that I'm not even all that similar to my family anymore with what I've had to experience.
And so, maybe you've already answered this, but how do you walk through that? What do you do to cope with that?
I don't know. I just pray when I catch myself like feeling that way, or like I don't think I've ever like necessarily had like a hardcore struggle with depression, like where it's like something I've been diagnosed with. I feel like I have gone through those periods of depression, but it's never something like that's like I've walked through it, or like I don't know, like it's not like a diagnosed thing where it's like I'm experiencing it every single day. But I like if I catch myself falling into that, I'll just like cast it on God, and I'll be like just God, like I can't think about this right now. You have to deal with this for me, and I'll like just give it to Him, and I'll just bind any of those feelings, or like bind any fear that I'm feeling about it. 'Cause like what if something like this were to happen again? And I'll just cast it at His feet, and I'll just ask for peace, and that seems to work well for me. So,
Amen. Awesome. That's good advice. I just wanted you to share that because, like I said, there may be someone listening who, isolation is one of the best, I shouldn't say best. Isolation is one of the adversary's favorite tactics for taking out God's children. If he can make you feel alone, and he can make you feel like you're going through this alone, that's the beginning of when he can start to really mess with your mind. So it's important for people to understand how they can get through those periods of loneliness. And, any issue can make you feel isolated.
yeah.
But some stuff that, the kind of stuff that you've gone through can really make you feel isolated, because you really are, I guess an anomaly is the right word to use.
Yeah.
I mean, our family is an anomaly, and you're an anomaly in our family.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I recommend, that just prayer. And for me, in those types of situations, like where I just like don't have the brain power, I just like need it to be gone as quick as possible. Like I don't know if this is technically what you're supposed to do, but I don't like make it sound fancy. Kind of just like, God, like I just cast this at your feet. Like I can't handle this right now, but I know that you can. So I'm giving this to you, and I'm asking for your comfort. So
It definitely can be that easy.
yeah, so you don't have to think too hard about it if you need it.
Amen. Well, we have been going for a decent amount of time now, so I think we'll go ahead and bring this to a close. And as we do, Ava, do you want to say anything to close us out? Is there any closing thoughts you'd like to share?
I guess just that God knows what He's doing. It may not feel like it sometimes, or it may feel like you're in a really awful situation, but it's all part of His will, and He just knows what He's doing. He's got your life in His hands, and you can always turn to Him whenever you need Him. He's always there for you. He's never going to leave. So, yeah.
Awesome. And Ava, I want to say, as your dad, how proud I am of you. And I count it as a high privilege to be your father, and also to be able to sit in this booth next to you and hear you share your story. And I'm honored to be not only your dad, but your fellow human being and your brother in Christ. So thank you,
Thanks.
Ava, for coming on
Of
and for
course.
sharing. And I love you.
I love you too.
And with that, Ava has stepped down from the stand. Thanks again, Ava. There are two things that stand out to me from that testimony. One is that the mercy and grace of God will carry us through darkness even when we don't feel we are spending the time with Him that we should. God understands our frame, and He knows that we don't always know how or what to say in every situation we face. We just need to lean into that grace and mercy. The other thing that stood out to me was Ava's insistence that her challenges be used as a testimony for God's glory. She asked me to share this verse with you. Therefore, I endure all things for the elect's sakes, that they may also obtain the salvation which is in Christ Jesus with eternal glory. It is a faithful saying, for if we be dead with Him, we shall also live with Him. If we suffer, we shall also reign with Him. If we deny Him, He also will deny us. If we believe not, yet He abideth faithful, He cannot deny Himself. 2 Timothy 2:10-13. When we are able to take our testimony and share it with others, it brings purpose to the trials we have faced. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for listening today. I've really enjoyed all the feedback that I've gotten from everyone from this podcast. So, again, thank you. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please take a minute to tap the like button or leave us a review. Also, if you click the follow button, it would help us out, and you will be notified every time a new podcast drops. As I mentioned before, we are trying to drop a new episode every 2 weeks. Also, please feel free to share this podcast with anyone you know that you think it will benefit. If any of the episodes that we've recorded so far, if you meet somebody and you feel like they could benefit from hearing that, please share it with them. I'm kind of hoping that these episodes of this podcast will become a tool for you to use to reach out to people. In the description in the show description, I have included a link to our Instagram account, so you can also take a minute to follow us on Instagram and stay connected with us there. One last thing. In this last episode, you heard us talk a lot about ICDs. So in the description, I have also included a link that will take you to a page where you can learn more about the ICD, what it does, and how it helps people with our condition. So that's it for today. Thanks again, everybody. And until next time, we are adjourned.